Welcome to Tech Care. You are joining Morten and Sangha today, and we have a very interesting guest with us.
Yeah, it's a huge pleasure to welcome you, Geraint. It's been, I think, about a year we've known each other, and since the Care Show in October, we've been talking quite intensively, and I know a lot about what you're doing, but I'd like, of course, for everyone who's listening in to get to know you a lot better than they do already. So, really, who are you, Geraint Thomas?
Yeah, really quite exciting to be here. So I'm a geek. Forgive me, I'm a geek. My head's all geek. I love technology. I particularly like the technologies that aren't quite invented yet. That is very much my background and history. But my heart is very much in social care. Could have chosen any other sector and earned more money, but no, for some reason, I'm wedded to social care. And that's me. So I run a company called Guided Innovation. We try and inspire care companies to solve their problems using cool tech. So yeah, that's me. I will talk all day long on the topic of tech and how it can support this amazing sector. So yeah, exciting to be on this.
Where are you based in the country? Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Born and bred in Wales. I met a pretty girl that lived in East Anglia. Like I thought that would ever mean anything to me. Next thing I know, I'm living over in Suffolk. Even now, if you speak to any of my family back in South Wales, if you ask them where does Geraint live, they'll just say over the bridge somewhere. So our head office is based in Suffolk, although we actively recruit nationally. So one of the benefits, of course, of the kind of the pandemic was this appetite for people to work from home. So we've really capitalized on that. And we have fantastic kind of change managers and project managers and implementation specialists and consultants kind of based all around the UK.
Yeah, I know this because I've met quite a few of them already. And I know that you've got a great team and do socials, even also distributed. I was invited to one that I was unfortunately not able to join. And I know that there are things going on also there. Can you tell us a bit more about who was the winner and what was it?
So yeah, we, as a disparate company, we hire across the UK. So we're a remote workforce to try and keep a culture going, to try and get really, that social that people go to work for working. We've had to work really hard at that. And one of the things we did it once, and now the team bully me into doing it quite regularly. And that is just a casual social. So it's on a Monday evening, 8:00, and anybody can come along to it from the company. And we play a little who did it kind of werewolf game where somebody's an imposter, and it's, it gets heated, it gets interesting. There's a lot of white lies thrown around. But yeah, we started throwing that out to partners and suppliers and customers and people that we work with. And you know what? It's fantastic. It's lovely to kind of get to know each other casually in an evening. With a drink in hand. So yeah, that's a bit of a life hack for anybody really who runs a company where you've got remote workforces. Please, steal that way. It's a fantastic one.
That's really interesting. So what brought you to social care?
Forgive me, I will confess, I used to work in financial services. So I was I worked for the banks. I was a financial advisor. Then 2008 happened, which was technically, as a financial advisor, my fault. And nobody wanted a financial advisor. I got made redundant. Nobody wanted me to work in the profession I worked in. And I fell into social care. So I started volunteering at a care home, which I loved, absolutely loved. It blew my mind. There was a world out there I didn't know about. And that was it. I started working my way up through the world of social care. And, as a geek, technology just came easy to me. And I loved the way that technology could transform and disrupt the way some of the more mundane tasks in care was being done. So that's where I focused.
Very interesting. So since 2008, I'm assuming that's when, like 2009, 10, that was your entry into the sector. So over these last 10 years, do you think the industry has shifted with regards to its acceptance of technology? I know the last 2 years have been awesome for anyone in technology and social care. I think, it's sad, but COVID did have that silver lining. And if anything, we should be happy about that silver lining.
Yes, you're spot on. I'd suggest I can split it into 3 phases in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, there were a few software providers in the market around HR and rostering and things like this. And they were monolithic products, very ugly. When you went into settings, it would still look like DOS, and it would still look like a developer. had built it and done it. So, that was the world back then. The products were quite expensive. And sadly, I just saw failed implementation after failed implementation as these softwares were forced upon people. And I think that persisted for a good 3 to 4 years. And then more startups. Silicon Valley was a thing, and Netflix and all these disruptors were coming out. Amazon was a thing, and Netflix was coming on. So I think a lot of startups appeared, fantastic startups that disrupted the other software companies. So now there's lots of products on the market for care planning, lots of products on the market for HR, lots of products, which is great. It makes procurement a bit of a nightmare for a care organization, choosing the right one for them. And now the third epoch that I think that we've come to now is a pivotal point right now. You're right, Sangha, exactly as you said, catalyzed by the pandemic. I think I've seen far more startups now with one very small solution that solves one very small problem, but does it incredibly well. So rather than these big systems that try and do everything, I think you can do this best of breed approach where you buy the best partner for you in each of these areas. So that's how I've seen it change. I'm excited to where we are right now. I'm excited at what's coming, particularly around the assistive technologies and things like that. So yeah, it's a really exciting place to be. If I look back at my younger self and said, "Geraint, you're going to make a living, with technology in care," I'd have laughed and went, "No, I need to get a proper job." But yeah, it's care right now. If talking out there to anybody who is a leader in the care sector, if digital and technology is not a fundamental pillar of your strategy going forward, you need to relook at your strategy right now.
Absolutely. You're speaking my language. I'm already loving it to bits. And I can see that. I can see a smile. We are at this place now, which is quite a nice spot to be in. Care is something which can never be automated. It can never be replaced by machines. But we know we can do so much. We can get the technology to work for us and we can deliver better care. So, yeah, share some more stories. I'm so interested to hear.
Now, just to back you up on that, I think when Sequoia entered the UK market in late 15, beginning of 16, we were among a few of the software suppliers in every trade show. And as you said, those that were there, and nothing bad about any of them, but they were the more classical enterprise systems. And they were probably also still on-premise based with like the servers in the basement of wherever they would go. And I think that general shift to software as a service has also enabled providers to look at more different best in classes, as you're saying, Geraint, and calling it. I think that's a general shift that's helped us a lot. Everything's in the cloud. People are more accustomed to that also. If you look at just our own private lives, us as consumers, or me as a dad, if I'm signing off my son for a footy match, it's in some kind of an app that's called Team Sports, and it's so easy. That wasn't there some years ago. It wasn't even there when we started, at least. So
it's not there in care. Why not? I mean, there was a point in my life where I had a young child, and I was able to log into a website and look through the webcam of the nursery, and I could see him crawling along the floor, and I could see which toys he was enjoying playing with, and then I could engage him with that afterwards when I picked him up. At the same point, my grandmother had really quite severe dementia in a nursing home. Did I have any transparency over what was going on there? Could I see her? Could I know she's all right? See what she's been enjoying doing in the day and engage her about it? No, not at all. And the technology's there right now. And that I'm talking 6 years ago. 6 years ago, it's still not there.
Yeah.
So a technology that I really am I got to say it, I'm frustrated at the lack of innovation I've seen is around this sensor technology that you might have in a building, allowing a loved one or a resident or person you're supporting circle of support to engage with. I'm looking forward to it. It's coming, but my goodness, I wish it was here now.
I think it has something to do with the mindset, and also we are a very highly regulated sector. And it's a classic case where, the regulators wants you to do something. It's a very people sector. You have to have a set, I would say, belief and process patterns into the sector, which is quite old, I would say, with the mindset. And how do you then transition into something which is new, more towards that regulated mindset where people are not welcoming technology because they're fearful of technology? Classic case, EMR, for example.
Yeah.
When one had paper copies versus when someone moved into an EMR, suddenly the rate of number of medication errors are much higher. And CQC would come and say, how is that possible? While there is no realization that it is, there can be false positives. It might be because you are recording more. The process has become much more easier, but that doesn't mean your quality has become bad. So I think there is a lot of awareness that needs to come into the segment and the sector as well.
That's just the best example, isn't it? That because you know more, you're also able to learn from what you capture, the data you've got. If it's just in the cupboard or if it's just in a paper format, nobody ever returns to it and sees it again. How do you know that you're not actually super error prone?
It's a fundamental thing that we focus on when we're implementing new technologies, is that through the change management side of things, you can't unknow something. So when you've implemented a digital technology, you suddenly know more.
Yeah.
You're more aware of what's happening. You're seeing which drugs are being delivered at what times and which drugs are perhaps not being delivered at what times. You know that now, which you perhaps didn't know before you had that level of transparency. So you need to then change your processes. You need to react quicker and with more agility to the data you're getting from these systems, which, I don't want to get into the world of data. That's a whole podcast episode on its own, Morten. Yeah, it's definitely this. You can't unknow something you now know, and these systems suddenly give it to you in spades. So you need to be able to react to the data you're getting.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's brilliant. I love it.
It's truly exciting. And I also think, like, coming back to the example you're mentioning about assistive technologies and sensors and all that, I've seen some really cool stuff over the years. People waking up at night, just like thinking about the alternative scenario to having a sensor beeping a certain someone saying, oh, actually, this person is up now, Mr. Matheson, he's gone up from his bed. And then the sensor just turns on the light, because most likely I'm going to the bathroom. I will be sometimes at nights. And then the alternative to that is that you go in every night and do the night check 2 times and you wake me up instead. And I'm really fond of my sleeping. So there is some things about being proactive when you make great use of technology.
And that's really interesting what you're saying. So I've spent time in care organizations, and you're speaking to leaders in these places, and I say, assistive technologies, what assistive technologies are in use in your building? I mean, how do you support them? Can they connect to your Wi-Fi, etc.? So, oh, we don't have any assistive technologies yet. Okay. And I'll walk them around their care home, and you'll walk into residents' rooms and you'll meet people and you'll go, okay, so there's a Kindle, there's an Alexa, what is that? Oh, that helps them read. That's the reading magnifier thing for their book, and it has to stay plugged in because she doesn't know how to plug it in if someone unplugs it. Brilliant. So your service users are going to be bringing in technology into your environment. And if you're domiciliary care, of course, your staff are walking into their environment, which you're going to find will have more assistive technology in it. I wonder what happens when, for example, one of my loved ones, his building, I've kitted his building out with sensors. So I have that level of confidence. I live 300 miles away from him, and I have that level of confidence of what he's doing, and he's safe and he's having a good standard of living. What happens when his needs get greater and he has to go into a care environment and he walks in with a bundle of sensors in his arms and goes, hi, I'd like to put these up, please. Yeah, care organizations are going to have to get ready for this because it's coming. I mean, the older generation that are getting older and more vulnerable are using technology more than ever.
And it's 2 ways, right? Not just the older segment of our population, but also, as a sector, we need to be catering to the evolving next generation as well. And I can't think myself to be in a care home which doesn't have the technology that I'm using in my day-to-day life and later on as well. So I think it's also about thinking ahead and about the future when you are thinking about digital and technology and how you can bring that future closer now itself rather than waiting for another 10 years for innovation to happen everywhere in the world, but not in care.
And although I think we would all like to see the sector leapfrog, there's also a thing about, and I know you do this in your presentations, Geraint, also, you talk about core systems and where are we now? Like, what's the status? What should a proper provider in their digital transformation, what should they focus on? And then there are other things surrounding that core and how things are either interoperable or best in class, or and where do you think an average provider from a digital perspective, where do you think they are now? What are they looking at? What are they doing?
Yeah, it's something I look at an awful lot. So in my mind, there are three areas of technology and digitalization that you're going to do in a care environment in your organization. You've got back office systems. I do refer to these as the boring systems. Sorry for anybody who works in finance and payroll and HR, but HR systems, payroll systems, finance systems, intranets, those kind of things, document management systems, maintenance, estates and maintenance solutions. These are back office systems. Most organizations will have a plethora of these in place. They will certainly be having finance systems, HR and payroll systems, certainly. Maybe they're thinking of the other ones that I might have mentioned. Intranets actually flared during COVID. I think everybody was thinking of one, and then COVID hit, and suddenly they needed a platform that everyone could access anywhere. So, those back office systems, I think, are in situ in a lot of organizations. Then we come to the second pot, which for me is your operational systems. So this is electronic medication systems like EMR, rostering systems, care planning solutions, nursing technologies. Now, in this space, I have my triangle of perfect technologies. If, as a care organization, you have fully implemented and embedded into your company a rostering solution, digital care planning solution, and an EMR solution, electronic medication administration, those three systems are fantastic together. CQC or any of your regulators are going to walk in, they're going to see those three systems in place. It'll make you a quality service and a safe service in the eyes of your regulators and your commissioners. Then we come into our third pot, which is your assistive technologies. So these are more your forward thinking. I'm going to lump in there data as well. Once you've digitalized your back office and your front office, your operations, then you need to seriously take a look at how you're going to leverage that data and get insight from it. But also sat in that pot is your sensors, wearable technologies, assistive techs, in terms of, I've seen some fantastic stuff done with virtual reality and augmented reality as well. And really kind of embrace that kind of stuff. So yeah, in terms of where everybody is, like I said, a chunk of back office systems are going to be in place. You'll struggle to run your company without them. Operationally, I think people have got one or two of the triangle in place. I think there's not many care companies now that don't have any of those. They'll at least have one or two. And in that space, I think some of might be lumbered with some of the companies I mentioned 10 years ago. But to those companies, I'll encourage you, look at your next renewal and reshop on the market. Definitely, you want to churn your suppliers a little bit. Don't get too cozy with the one you've had for 8 years. You'll be amazed by what you'll find out there when you look for new ones. And then in assistive technology, I wish. I'm really not seeing it out there very much. There's pockets, and it's often piloted. Sadly, a company that will remain nameless. I went on their website and I saw assistive technology as an option in the menu bar at the top. I was like, yes, until I clicked on it and I saw a picture of reading glasses. Technically true in assistive technology, but not what I was looking for. So yeah.
Following your example of of the object that you found, imagine that being connected into a sensor, and suddenly, all your activities are getting populated. How many hours of reading the person did enjoy? So yeah, who knows? I'm excited about the sector, and like you say, sensor technology is going to shape the sector even more, even better.
I totally agree. So, Geraint, for the last and final question, do you think the sector is on the verge of a digital and, in lack of better words, revolution?
Yes, it is at a pivot point. It is right there. The focus for people like us on this podcast, for the people listening to this podcast, is to push that pivot over the fulcrum, get it over so that it does. Because when it goes, it'll go. Our regulators will not allow you to not be digital in areas. CQC are already making these noises. We are at that revolution point. Please, everybody, move it forward, get us across so that we're running downhill when we're putting these systems in, rather than being pulled as uphill.
Thank you, Geraint.
Thank you. Thanks for adding to that momentum.
No, No, I'm here until I die, or I'm in one of my customers' care.
We hope so.
Yeah.
We'll visit you, and if not on site, we'll at least just zoom in.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe, review, and share your favorite Take Care podcast with your friends and colleagues. Until we meet next week, take care.